Hello everyone, welcome to my channel The Legit Astrologer. My name is Rajat Kapoor. Today in this video I am going to talk about Rahu Mahadasha. So this is in continuation to my series of videos on different Vimshottari Mahadashas. In this video I'll try and remove some of the myths that have been created with regards to Rahu Mahadasha, which is generally perceived quite dreadful. People have a lot of fear about this particular Mahadasha because of its time span as well and the inherent basic nature of Rahu, which is considered malefic. In this video, I'm going to keep things very simple. I'm going to also share some story with regards to Rahu. I'm also going to highlight some very important connections, what Rahu really means. And towards the end of this video, I am going to include some remedies that people can follow in order to cope up with some negative results of the Rahu Mahadasha. These remedies are very simple in nature. So I request you to watch the full video, and in case you're new to my channel, please subscribe, hit the bell icon and make sure you don't miss out on the upcoming series of videos on Mahadashas and also transits and its results. And in case you wish to book a consultation with me, check out the links below to my website where you can connect with me. So Rahu Mahadasha, it is an 18 years long period. It's quite lengthy in terms of its duration. So overall, 120 years that have been given to Vimshottari Mahadasha. Rahu takes 18 years of the time, and it could be a significant period for any individual. Let's understand what Rahu is. What does Rahu represent? What does Rahu signify? And I'm also going to talk about why this significance, because there is always a reason when it is astrology. There is always a reason to the basic significance of any planet or any graha, which is scientific in nature, which is also historic in nature. There is certain history associated to all the grahas. Rahu. Now, one keyword that I can describe Rahu with is desire. So it is desire for anything and everything that exists in the world. So the key to pacify Rahu, the key to influence Rahu in a positive manner is to take control of your desires, to channelize your passion towards these desires in a way which can help you focus on most important things in life. Rahu is all about desire. Rahu is all about illusion. Rahu is Maya. It is the dragon's head, and I mentioned this in my previous video as well, that since it's only the head, it has a brain which has a lot of thinking, and it keeps thinking and wants to conquer everything. The body is not in control because body represents Ketu, which is very opposite in nature. It does not really have needs, it does not have desires, but Rahu has a lot of desire. Rahu is also the one that has a vision. History says that Rahu is also immortal because Rahu and Ketu were made out of a Rakshasa called Svarbhanu, who took some share of Amrita, or the nectar which can make someone immortal. So there is story that is available. I would encourage you to read more about it. Rahu is a dark, shadowy planet. It is a night strong planet. The Mahadasha goes on for 18 years. The maturity age of Rahu is 45 years. So 45 years of age for a human being, Rahu gets mature, which also means that a Rahu Mahadasha at the later part of life could be less painful if there is any malefic influence of Rahu in the chart. Now let's understand why Rahu and Ketu are called lunar nodes. When moon or Chandrama moves from south to the north, it passes through an incision point. Incision point is a cut that represents Rahu. And when it is the other way, when it is transiting from north to south, the incision point here, which is 180 degrees opposite of the point of Rahu, is Ketu. These are very important points through which the whole mathematical calculation in Jyotish or astrology is derived, which also makes me reach to a conclusion that Rahu and Ketu are an integral part of the moon, which is the mind. So more than anything else, Rahu's Mahadasha has a significant impact on the mind because it is a big change. It is a big transformation at the mental level that an individual is going through. There are conflicting thoughts and energies. And since Rahu from a Tattva perspective represents wind, and I'm going to talk about why it represents wind, so it indicates a storm of emotions, a lot of storm that is going on within the mind, which has an impact physically. So since they are 180 degrees apart in a chart, they are always in the opposite houses from each other. Now let's talk about some histories of Devas and Asuras. So Itihasa says that Devas and Asuras used to fight a lot, and it were the Asuras who were mostly victorious. What is the reason for this? Now let me explain in a very simple manner. Venus, that is Shukra, is also called Guru of Asuras. Venus is the only planet that attained knowledge of Mrit Sanjeevani, the ultimate mantra to help bring back the dead to life. So Shukra worshipped Lord Shiva and attained Mrit Sanjeevani Vidya. So this is how the Asuras were supported by Venus, and this helped them to be more victorious in the battles between the Devas and Asuras. Rahu and Ketu came out from a demon named Swarbhanu. When Swarbhanu pretended to be a Deva, had a sip of Amrit, this is when Lord Vishnu was aware of this false practice, and he used a Sudarshan Chakra to cut off the head from the body. Swarbhanu already had achieved immortality. So the head and the body became Rahu and Ketu later by the blessings of Lord Brahma, and they were given planetary cabinets. Therefore, Rahu and Ketu respectively becomes the 8th and the 9th planet in the order of Grahas, which also means that Rahu has a lot to do with transformation. It has got energies of the 8th house, which is transformation, sudden ups and downs, frequent changes, inheritance, secret knowledge, and occult, mysticism. All the mysteries in the world are associated to Rahu, and it is also linked to quick ways of doing things, faster ways of doing things. There is also a saying that Shanivat Rahu, Kujuvat Ketu, that Rahu has energies of Saturn and Ketu has energies of Mars. Now this works differently in case of Rahu. Saturn, which is the Karaka for hard work, discipline. Rahu is also the Karaka for work, but it represents shortcuts. It represents faster and different ways of doing things. Therefore, Rahu is also the significator of technology, of artificial intelligence, of social media. There's also a reason. This is because one of the house that Rahu co-rules is the sign of Aquarius, which is the natural 11th house of the Kala Purusha Kundli, which also represents the social circle, social network. All the technological advancements are linked with the sign of Aquarius. So Rahu co-rules the sign of Aquarius. Now some scriptures and some school of thoughts of astrology also say that Rahu co-rules the sign of Virgo. There will always be a debate because Rahu and Ketu are the primary significator of illusion. They create confusion. So there will always be a conflict of opinion. There is no perfect solution. So I consider Rahu to co-rule both Aquarius and Virgo, which means it does pretty well in these signs, considering if the dispositor of these signs is some way well placed in the chart and if Rahu is having some benefic influence. Rahu gets exalted in the sign of Taurus. It also gets exalted in the sign of Gemini. There are different schools of thought. How I look at it is that Rahu from a longevity perspective gets exalted in the sign of Taurus, and from a materialistic physical perspective gets exalted in the sign of Gemini. Now let me share the signs where Rahu supposedly does very well. This is the sign of Taurus, the sign of Gemini, the sign of Cancer, the sign of Virgo, the sign of Libra, and the sign of Aquarius. So 6 out of these 12 signs Rahu is supposedly better placed in these signs. In other signs, Rahu does not do pretty well, but then it will always depend on the dispositor, the ruler of the particular sign, because Rahu is a Chaya Graha. It is an integral part of the moon. So whichever sign Rahu is placed in, it is supposed to act in the manner of the sign lord. It is supposed to act by the influence of the sign lord. So I can conclude that a Rahu Mahadasha could be very much similar to, in terms of its effect, of the particular sign lord's Mahadasha, based on the yogas and connection that particular lord has. For example, if Rahu is placed in the sign of Aries, so its Mahadasha would have the results based on Mars's placement and the yogas it forms and the kind of planetary rulership it has in the chart and the other connections it makes. If Rahu is placed, let's say, in the sign of Leo, then we need to take Sun into account. So similarly, we can look at all the signs. Rahu is the significator of mental transformation, because if you look at the Dasha sequence, Rahu's Dasha is followed by Jupiter's Dasha. Jupiter is all about wisdom, knowledge, teaching, learning, directions and blessings of the Guru. Rahu is a big change. It is transformation at the mental level. It is all about elevating what we have, amplifying what we have, and trying to get as much as we want in this material world. So it's a big shift of energies. Therefore, the initial part of Rahu Dasha, generally it is challenging when there is Rahu Antardasha and Rahu's Pratanta Dasha as well. In case Rahu is exceptionally placed very well in the chart, it is forming good yoga and has a benefic influence, these results will be positive since the start of the Mahadasha. But there are very different energies from Jupiter to Rahu. Therefore, it is a big change at the mental level, and one needs to be very much careful and strengthen their moon, particularly in the first 2 or 3 years of the Rahu Mahadasha. Focus a lot in terms of mind. So meditation is the key, spirituality is the key, taking control of your thoughts is the key. One of the remedies here could be to pen down your thoughts, to pen down the key goals that you have, because if you write with a pen and purpose, you are more determined to achieve what you want. So this remedy is quite good, especially in terms of the first phase of Rahu Mahadasha, in terms of the initial 2 or 3 years of the Rahu Mahadasha. Now let's also talk about the houses where Rahu is likely to deliver positive results. Okay. If Rahu is placed in any of the trinal houses, which is the first house, fifth house, ninth house, generally Rahu is not considered good in these houses unless it is in a good sign, it is in a positive sign, or it is having a benefic influence, because these signs are the significator of knowledge, primary knowledge. These signs are natural fire signs. Rahu is wind. What happens when wind and fire come together? It is likely to create a massive fire unless it is channelized in a positive manner. Rahu is considered exceptionally good in the quadrant houses, which is the first house, fourth house, seventh house and 10th house. So Rahu can deliver mixed results when it is in the first house from a placement perspective. But otherwise, Rahu, if placed in a quadrant house and if the dispositor is strongly placed or has any sort of influence of Rahu, it creates a Raja Yoga. If there is a malefic influence on Rahu, if there are more malefics in the quadrant houses or kendras, then it will create a Sarpa Yoga. That could be very much a challenging situation. Rahu does very well in the Upachaya houses, which is the third house, sixth house, 10th house and the 11th house. Why? Because these houses represent growth. Rahu is all about growth. Rahu is all about expansion. Therefore, it does very well in these houses. The best, in my opinion, it does in the houses are the third house and the 11th house, because third house is growth by efforts. 11th house represents growth through gains. And this is where Rahu really has the blessings of the Trinity. Unless there are some severe affliction in the chart And if Rahu is in any malefic influence, the results would be mixed. But Rahu placed in Upachya is an ideal or the best position at a general level. There are many other things that need to be taken into account while making an assessment of the results. Let's talk about Rahu's Mahadasha. If Rahu is well placed in the chart, if it is having benefic influence by placement, aspect and conjunction, so which means if it is in any way connected to the trinal lords or the Kendra lords, or if it is well placed in the chart, or the dispositor of Rahu is strongly placed, is in strength in the chart, and Lagna Lord has strength, then this Rahu Mahadasha can really make the person go to places and new heights over the 18 years long period. This Mahadasha is transformative. The individual can have all sort of material gains and comfort. This is what the ancient text or the scriptures suggest. When Rahu's Mahadasha is positive, it can turn rags to riches. It can amplify the success. It can help attain higher spiritual goals for the person as well. It is really a positive transformation and it gives most of the material comforts in life. If Rahu is negatively placed in the chart, or if it is weak, it is afflicted, it is under malefic influence, if it has an aspect of natural malefic planets such as Saturn, Mars or Krura Graha Sun, and if it is conjoined or influenced by the 6th house lord, 8th house lord, 12th house lord, the 3rd house lord or the 11th house lord, then the results could be detrimental. It could create a lot of struggles more at the mental level, which will really translate into action, and the native can have a lot of challenges through this dasha. Now, I'm not saying that the entire 18-year period of Rahu would be good or it will be bad. The results will always be mixed. Any Mahadasha, be it Jupiter, which is the most natural benefic planet, be it Rahu, which is the perceived malefic planet, not really a malefic, but it is a perception that has been built. The results of Rahu Mahadasha are going to be mixed. What matters more is the Antardashas in Rahu's Mahadasha and how the Antardasha Lord is placed, whether it is in strength, whether it is in good dignity, and this is where the remedies most of the time come from as well. And also the connection that Rahu and this Antardasha Lord is making. If you watch my previous video where I talked about Dasha Lagna, if the Antardasha Lord is in a Kendra relationship, quadrant relationship 1, 4, 7 or 10 from Rahu, or if it forms a trinal relationship, it could be positive. 212 could be a challenging relationship which could make an individual suffer losses. 311 with the Antardasha Lord could be a situation where there are gains after significant amount of efforts. 6 and 8 could be challenging unless the Antardasha Lord is in great strength and great dignity and it is a functional benefic planet for the native. Now let's also talk about the aspects of Rahu which are pretty much active during the Dasha time. Planetary aspects are temporary. This is something which no one talks about, but I'd like to clarify that planetary aspects are temporary. The permanent aspects are only the Rashi aspects. Yes, signs also aspect. They also have desire. I'm going to make a separate video on this, but let's understand Rahu's aspect. So Rahu aspects 5th from its position, 7th from its position and 9th from its position. Now, why does Rahu have these aspects? What is the other graha that has these special aspects? It is Jupiter. So Jupiter has 5th aspect, 7th aspect and the 9th aspect. If we look at in a very logical manner, Rahu is someone who wants to be the best. So it wants to have the best aspect, which is the aspect of knowledge, which is the aspect of positivity, and that aspect is of the planet Jupiter. So therefore, Rahu gets the aspect which is the 5th, 7th and 9th aspect, because Rahu towards the end of the day wants to be the best. And this is the message for you as well, to start working on your own self to become better day by day. Transformation is always challenging. One has to go through pain. One has to go through certain amount of suffering for a greater good. Let's understand certain things which one must be careful during the Rahu Mahadasha. Rahu is illusion, Rahu is Maya. So one needs to take control of their sixth house matter, which is the Shadripu. So take care of the actions that you take, not get into any sort of shortcuts in life, or taking control of your greed, your desire, and making certain bad decisions which could be detrimental for your own self. So what do we do when there is this big shift energy in the Rahu Mahadasha? Where does the remedy come from? So from a remedial perspective, I'm going to talk about a few things here, and I want you to pay attention firstly on the nakshatras ruled by Rahu. So Rahu rules 3 nakshatras. It rules Ardra nakshatra, Swati nakshatra, and Shatabisha nakshatra. Ardra nakshatra represents storm. It also represents a teardrop. The deity is Rudra. Rudra is the ruler of storms. Swati nakshatra. Swati nakshatra's deity is Vayu. Vayu is the ruler of wind. Shatabisha nakshatra. Shatabisha nakshatra's deity is Varuna. Varuna is the ruler of ocean and rains. Also, these 3 nakshatras fall in air signs: Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius respectively. What does this indicate? This indicates that Rahu is all about winds. It is the storm. Rahu is closely linked to the marine life, primarily the fishes and everything in the marine world. So therefore, one of the remedies that comes from the nakshatras is to do good for the marine life, to ensure that it is not polluted. I mean, some people also keep fishes at their home in an aquarium. You can do that if you're willing to commit and take good care of the fishes, because if you're not able to do that, it can have severe negative consequences on your well-being. The other remedy is that you can get fishes and you can free them into the water. Now, since Rahu is that storm, can move or shake anything around. Okay, now who is that can withstand the storm? If there's a massive storm, that can also uproot big trees. But then there is palm tree, which does not get uprooted. Why? Because palm tree has the capacity of bending with the wind. This is because palm tree is flexible. I would say that flexibility is the key for Rahu Mahadasha. You really got to bend with the wind. And Rahu is associated to coconut trees. Rahu is associated to palm trees. So coconut and dates, consuming that on a daily basis can be a very good remedy for Rahu. Consuming dates first thing in the morning and towards the afternoon, taking coconut water is a very good remedy for strengthening Rahu and channelizing it in a positive manner. Now, 2 other things which you can include in your daily diet, particularly if Rahu is weak in the Shadbala. You can use any of the astrology softwares, or you can put up your chart online and it will give you the Shadbal of Rahu. If it is weak, if it is scoring less than 15, if it is scoring less than 10, which is quite bad, which is very weak, then you should consume thyme in your daily routine. So the food that you cook, add a bit of thyme or add some thyme in water and you can consume it in the morning. The other remedy is hing, which is also called asafoetida. You can add this in water and consume. You can add this in the food that you cook at home and consume. This is very good for your overall digestive system and your stomach. Reason being because Rahu does not really have a body. So it wants to consume everything that it has. Since it cannot experience the consequences of overconsumption, this is where some food items really help. Lastly, another good remedy to channelize Rahu in a positive way is that at least one meal of your day, you should sit on the floor, cross-leg position as you feel comfortable, and have at least one meal of your day in a Padmasana position or a normal cross-leg position that you can, as this is going to ensure your consumption and a good digestive system. One of the things that you must avoid, or it's a big no, is to eat on your bed or in your bedroom, particularly if Rahu is anyway connected to your Lagna or the Lagna Lord, or if you're undergoing Rahu's Mahadasha. And lastly, as I mentioned to you in the beginning, that Shukra is the Deva Guru of Rahu. So Rahu listens to Shukra. Shukra is associated to Lakshmi. Venus is associated to Lakshmi. So worshipping Shakti, Durga or Lakshmi, any forms of Shakti, is highly beneficial to influence Rahu in a positive manner. Now this is where the remedy is coming from. We should always try and understand where the remedy is going to come from and how it is going to have an impact on ourselves. I hope if you're undergoing Rahu Dasha, or if you're undergoing a Rahu return period, because Rahu brings in major changes as well after an year and a half of its transit, because that is the time that Rahu and Ketu takes in terms of having a full transit in the sign, then you should make use of some of these remedies which can help you channelize these energies in a positive manner. I hope that you found this video helpful and it will help you to get some positive results of Rahu. Let's remove the fear. There is no need to fear. Embrace the positive qualities of Rahu. If you were to expand, if you were to amplify, channelize your decisions in a positive manner. Channelize your emotions, your thinking in a way that can help you achieve some of these goals in life. And don't consider Rahu as the bad guy. I hope that you liked this video, and in case you wish to book a personalized consultation with me, you can always reach out to me via my website. Thank you very much and have a good day.